Great. So again, lecture started. Let's review what we did yesterday as far as the application is concerned. Yesterday we created an application using our zoo animals model, right? We have our zoo animals model and we created a tab bar controller. Our tab bar controller has 3 tabs. The first tab in the tab bar controller uses the built-in UI table view cell. The cell style is a subtitle cell style. We have 4 different styles of cells in iOS, built in iOS. That's our first tab using the cell style subtitle. Our second tab, we created a custom cell. Our custom cell had an image view and 3 UI labels, right? One UI label takes care of the animal name, next UI label takes care of the classification, and the last takes care of the origin. So this was our custom cell. Our third tab in our tab bar controller created a sections table view, right? We had to create our own method to return an array of arrays. We returned an array of arrays, which is a zoo animals array of arrays, right? And we were able to section out our table view. So as we continue on with this lecture here, we will go ahead and have 2 prototype cells on our third tab. 2 prototype cells. The first cell will be right image. The second cell will be a left image cell. We'll use the same animal cell. Any questions so far? So we have to go back to our storyboard and update the UI for the table view and have 2 prototype cells on it and add constraints for the second cell. Right now we have constraints set for this current cell we're looking at, but we need to create a new prototype cell, so we'll have 2 prototype cells. The second prototype cell, the image will be left aligned, and the labels will be to the right of the image, okay? So the sections will be, what we'll do, we'll use an algorithm in our cell for row that has even sections on the right and odd sections on the left. So currently we have all images on the right, but after we complete our objective, for example, our penguin, our bird images will be on the left side, okay? Any questions about that? Any questions? All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go to our main storyboard. Let's go to our main storyboard, and we are looking at the third scene in our storyboard. The third scene, the third view controller. Our third view controller. So currently, we have 1 prototype cell. 1 prototype cell currently. So we need to open up our attributes inspector for our table view. So click on your table view, go to attributes inspector, right? So attributes inspector, how many prototype cells do we have? 1, right? So basically, we want to change that number to 2. So increasing that number by 1, now we have 2 prototype cells. Let's go do some refactoring here. First off, I want to command click on all 4 elements I have. I want to remove all the constraints. So command click on all 4 elements. I command click on classification, origin, and image view. So we've selected 4 of those elements. And we go to reset constraints. I go down to where it says resolve constraints here. I click on it, and I click on clear constraints for the selected images. Clear constraints for the selected images. Okay, great. Okay. Command click to select the 4 of them. What did I do? Did I say that wrong? Yeah, hold down the command key and click as you go. Okay, cool? All right, first thing, let's see what the error, we might have an error. I think we have an error here. Let's see what the error is. Error says multiple prototype cells have the same identifier. So Xcode was able to see that we duplicated a cell, but there's an error. That cell has the same identifier as our previous cell. Everybody with me? A mini? Right? So here we have to edit the identifier. So let's go edit the identifier for both. So first select your first cell, go to the attributes inspector for the cell, make sure your cell is selected. Go to the attributes inspector of the first cell. For the first cell, we'll call it right cell or right image cell. So right image cell for the top cell. Right image cell is the identifier. The identifier for the first cell, Yulia? From animal cell to right image cell, and press enter. Right, that's our first cell. And click on our second cell. Click on our second cell, make sure it's selected. And let's go and edit. So we'll edit our second cell to say left image cell. Press enter. Right, great. So at this point, our error is gone. We have warning, so we have to set up our constraints. So let's move things around here. Right now, we have no constraints. We could just move things around so we could position the image where it should go. The image goes to the left, so I will drag my image over, not my animal label. I'll drag my image over to the left of the cell. All right, so my image, let's go ahead and set the constraints for the image first. What are the constraints for the image, May? Okay, so we'll click on our add new constraints. I'll zoom in so we could all see. And May says the top is 0. Leading is 0. Bottom is 0. And our width will say it's 140. Everybody? So we have 4 constraints for the image view. Yes? We don't need a height because the height of the image will be the height of the cell because we pinned it to the top and the bottom. Our cells will be all the same height because we're returning 140 points. We're actually doing that already. In our view controller yesterday, we had, if we have to look over here, in our delegate here, we're returning 140 points. So Chelsea's question was if all the images are different heights, right? We are returning a fixed height, and we set our constraints to 140, right? So the image view will be 140 by 140, regardless. Any questions about that? Questions? Yes?
If you do 0 lines on the label, does it affect the height or no?
If you do 0 lines on, it's not going to affect the height, like we said yesterday, right? Because we're returning 140. That overrides everything else. So if we do 0, it's going to create as many lines as that text is, but it's not going to affect the height of the cell. Okay, so Mr. One's question was, if we say 0, for example, classification, and classification has like 5 lines, will that affect the height of the row? No, because we're returning a fixed height, right? If we're not returning a fixed height, as we saw on Monday with self-resizing, if we're not returning a fixed height for the cell, then it's going to resize based on the height of the label. Okay? All right, so we have completed our image view constraints. Let's go ahead and do our animal constraints and our classification constraints and our origin constraints. Majid, what would be the animal constraints? Leading and trailing, okay, so I click on my add new constraints. Leading is 8, right? Trailing is 8, and we'll say it's 8 from the top. So we have 3 constraints here for our animal. Next up, we have classification. Add new constraints for classification. We'll have 8 from the bottom of animal name. We'll have 8 from the lead-in or the trailing of the image view. We'll have 8 from the trailing of the super view. Great. And lastly, we have the origin. We say add constraints on the origin. 8 to the image view, 8 to the super view's trailing, 8 to the bottom of the cell. Great. So at this point, we have no warnings, we have no errors. Both our cells have been constrained correctly. We could continue on. But we need to connect the cells. We need to connect the second cell we have to connect that to our custom class. We have to connect the outlets. Everybody with me? If we don't connect the outlets at this point, if we do call that cell, it's going to crash the app, saying that it's found nil because the connection hasn't been made, right? So make sure here that you are connecting your UI elements to your cell class. So we'll option click on our animal cell. Option click on our animal cell. Look at that, it's actually connected because we copied the thing. So we have no work to do. Beautiful thing. But verifying is good. So our animal image is connected. Our animal name is connected. Our animal origin label is connected. And our classification label is connected. No. That's why I really wanted to review this one too. Because I know we probably did our lab our own way. Right? But this is the way you want to go about it. You don't want to create a separate class for each cell because they're the same. Right? They're the same, they have the same elements, they're just different orientations or different constraints. Right? So hopefully that helped some people there to either refactor or see a different way to do it. Everybody with me? The question was, Amini said that she created multiple custom cells, classes for her project. So she had 2 cells, she created 2 cell classes. But our suggestion here is 1 cell class for the 2 cells we have in the UI. Because they're the same attributes, they should be doing the same work when you come to configure cell. Everybody with me? When I say configure my animal, it's the same things I'm setting. They're just different places. I mean, 1 cell might even tell you to hide if it's on the left. You could still set it, but you could just hide the element. There's a lot of things we could do with the knowledge we have so far. You could hide labels based on what is being shown. There's a lot of things we could do. If we get some question in the assessment saying every other cell, make it black or whatever, we should be able to do that too, right? Because we know how to change the color of a cell, right? Yes, sir, question?
Sorry, yeah, one more time. Can you show how you put 2 labels to 1 outlet?
2 labels. When we said 2 cells, what Xcode did in Interface Builder, it copied everything over. It copied the connections. It copied it copied the connections. It copied everything, even the constraints. It copied as well, right? The one thing we really had to change really was the identifier, but we also wanted to change our layout. Okay, but we did not have to explicitly connect it here, because we said just add 1 more cell. It went ahead. What it normally does when you interface builder, if you say add 1 more, it copies the one above.
Okay,
Yeah, so it copies the one above.
Does it copy the constraints as well?
Yes.
So you have to take them off, right?
Yeah, we took them off earlier, right? We started off by command clicking on all 4, and we reset it. We cleared it. Yeah. 1.
I still don't quite understand because it made me do it twice for each one.
When did it make you do that?
Explicitly, I had to connect
When was that?
yesterday.
You might have done a different thing. You might have done where you added a cell manually instead of like incrementing the prototype cell. Did you increment the prototype cell? If you did, it would give you the exactly what we did today. When you went to the table view, you said instead of 1, add 1 more, make it 2.
At the prototype cell attribute.
Yes, yes. So where it says number of prototype cells, so if I click on my table view and I bring up my inspector,
So you had to lay out.
1 second. So you see where it says inspector here?
Right.
Here? I incremented this to 2. If we increment it to 3, we'll also get a third with everything connected already.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you connected it first, then incremented? Yeah. Okay.
I did not connect it. I incremented it. That's it.
But the first one was connected.
The first one is connected from
So
yesterday.
if it wasn't connected,
Yes.
you would have to connect.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. Cool? Excellent. Okay. Any other questions? So right now we have 2 cells, 2 different identifiers. Xcode is happy. Our auto layout is set up. Now let's go to code. Let's go to code. Let's go to code to make the actual logic of what's going to be happening. Yes?
Before you go, can you pull up your identity inspector for
The cell should be animal cell.
no, not identity, size inspector. Because every time I try to put the constraints on the labels, they just go shoot to the left.
1 second. For, yeah, they do constraint. There you go. The table view. Double check that. Thank you, Matt. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's go to our animal sections view controller. Yes.
So for some reason my second cell I confirmed to animal cell in identity inspection. It should be or shouldn't be?
It should be animal cell. You mean the class name? Yes. So let's verify here before I continue on. So go back to your storyboard. Let's go to our storyboard. We did not change the class. Make sure you don't change the class name. Is that what you're referring to, Yulia? Yulia, are you talking about this animal cell here? This animal cell here? That stays the same. The only thing we changed was the reuse identifier. Everybody? The class stays the same. That's why we're able to have the connections there. That doesn't change. It's the same class we're using. The only thing we're changing is the reuse identifier here.
No, now I see it. Just when I click the cell, it's choose content view. That's why I didn't see that.
I'll help you offline. I'll help you offline with the content
It
issue.
works right now.
Okay, okay.
The car didn't see it before.
Okay, all right. Any other issues before we move on? Everybody has their 2 cells? Ian?
Just a quick question. They remain connected, right?
I'm sorry?
They remain connected to like the outlets?
Yes.
Okay.
Cassandra? Good? Okay. So let's continue. Navigate over to your navigation sections view controller, and we are going to our cell for row. We're going to our cell for row. Let's actually just rewrite our cell for row. Let's rewrite our cell for row because we have a different logic happening. So what we want to happen is we want to toggle or we want to change. If the section is even, we want to use the right image cell. Everybody with me? If the section is not even, then we'll go ahead and use the left cell, right? So it's either or. Either the image is on the right or the image is on the left. Everybody with me? But what determines that is the section modulo. Like, is it even or odd? Questions about that? Yes?
So for given flows, do we have to alternate the cells based off of the season or the section?
Whatever that question is asking. Whatever the question, whatever the prompt is, right? Our exact example is alternating based on the section mod operator. Is it even or odd?
But also, do we have to use mod if
It's up to you what logic.
only do sections, so it could be 0 or 1.
Say that again.
We have only 2 cells.
You have 2 cells?
We only have 2 cells.
You're doing it. We're doing it based on the section modular, based on if the section is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The section changes. We have 5 sections. So if section 0 is even, section 2 is even, section 4 is even. Get it? Right? We don't just have 2 sections. We have more than 2 sections. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So what are we trying to achieve? Alternate. Left and right image cells using right image cells, alternate left and right image cells based on even or odd modulo remainder. All right. Great. So let's start off. So we'll say if section, we don't have section, but we have index path. If index path, we have index path is coming from here, self for row. Self for row has an index path. Index path has section, it has row, right? It has those two properties in there. We're after section. So if index path dot section, section is what data type? An int, right? So an int, we could do modular operator on it. What does the modular operator do, Tanya?
It pulls up whether or not you have a remainder, depending on what number you put.
Right, so the modular operator, as Tanya is saying, is basically a remainder operator, right? Perform some division and give me the remainder of that operation, right? In our case, if the remainder is 0, that means it's even. Okay, back in unit 1. Right, so index path.section mod 2 is the number we'll use, as Tanya said, right? If we divide by 2, the remainder should be 0. If the remainder is 0, then we want to show our right image cell. Everybody with me? If it's not 0, if it's not even, then it's odd. So here we're checking for even, and here it's odd. Okay? For now, we have one type of cell. So we have less of a complex algorithm to write, right? We have one type of cell returning. So I'll start off by creating a cell. Our cell is an animal cell. I'll use implicit unwrapping here because we are guaranteed to have one of those cells. Right? We are guaranteed to have one of those cells. So we start off by having a variable, like any other variable we ever had. We have a variable here, it's a cell, and at the end we'll just return a cell. At the end of all that operation, we are returning a cell. As to what identifier it is, that's up to our if-else statement. So let's go ahead and set that up. So here in that if statement, if it is even, then we want to get our right image. So here I'll use a guard. I'll say image cell for now, or animal cell. We'll use our table view dequeue method to dequeue a cell. This identifier, which identifier do we need here? Brendan, which identifier are we using if we want the right image? Right image cell, right? Is that what we call it? Right image cell, right? And index path is our index path, and we still have to typecast it to an animal cell. And we don't have an animal cell, something went wrong, something bad happened. So here we couldn't dequeue, and we couldn't dequeue a right image cell. If we did get our cell, well, let's set up our cell. So here I'll say cell equal to animal cell. And that cell is coming from our variable. Everybody with me? That variable we created here, we just assign it. So we did get a cell, we assigned it, and let's go ahead and configure it. First of all, we need to get the object. Actually, we don't even need to do that. Let's do that later, because we don't want to duplicate code here. So we'll stop here, and we'll set up the cell right here. We'll get the object. So get the animal at the index path. Let animal. Lilia, how do I get animal? I'm using an array of arrays.
You just index, right, index
Before that, what's the data we're dealing with? What's the name of our data? You can scroll up. What is the data for the table view?
Alright, it's
Animal classifications, right? And then index path,
yeah, in this path, in this section, in this path.
that section, right? And then,
Um,
because it's an array of arrays, we need two sets of subscripts.
index path,
Index path.rel. Awesome. Any questions about that, guys, before we move on? So here we have our animal, and we did as we did yesterday. We'll configure the cell using the animal object retrieved from above. And here we say cell.configure cell with animal. Right? Great. So whatever we did here to retrieve our right image cell, we need to retrieve our left image cell as well. So in our else statement, we'll simply say guard let animal cell equal to table view dot dequeue reusable cell. And this time, what cell do we need? Left image cell. Index path here. We're using typecasting to get to the animal cell. And if we did not get the animal cell, then we were not able to dequeue it successfully. So couldn't dequeue a left image cell. And make sure to assign cell, the animal cell you got here. Okay? So two scenarios, either we even or we odd. If we're even, we dequeue the right image cell. If we're odd, we get the left image cell. Right? We get the cell, we assign it to our cell variable that we declared on line 43. And at line 58, we do as we've done before, we get the object at the current index path, which is an animal, and we use index path.section, index path.row, because animal classifications is an array of arrays. And once we get our animal, we use our configure cell, which we have an instance method in our animal cell class that's called configure cell. Right? Configure cell is not part of iOS. Everybody with me? Right? So configure cell, where is it coming from? It's coming from our animal, our zoo animal class, sorry. Not zoo animal class, it's coming from our animal cell class. Our animal cell.swift, this is where we wrote our own configure cell method. Everybody with me? Questions about that? Okay, cool. Going back to the code. Yeah.
Why is under variable cell, why is animal cell being force unwrapped?
Where is it force unwrapped?
Above.
This is implicit unwrapping because I'm guaranteed to have a cell. If I don't have a cell, the app should crash. So here we're using implicit unwrapping. Right? We have to declare some sort of initial value. Right? We could do question mark, but we have to unwrap it anyway. But here we have to have a cell between even or odd. If we don't, then the app should crash anyway.
Okay.
Right? So again, you need to have some sort of variable to start with our cell. Right? And that's how we initialize it. So it's implicitly unwrapped, so the minute we set it here, it has a value. So it got set, or it got set here. It either gets set here or it gets set here. Cool? If it gets here and it doesn't have a value, right, it's going to crash, which it should crash, because something went wrong between those two things. Okay? As a matter of fact, it's actually going to crash first. It's going to crash in the fiddle error before it actually sets anything here.
I'm trying to get the idea of like, so for
This is very similar to what we do with the table view, also implicitly unwrapped.
okay.
Because that outlet should be available when that view comes on screen.
So like when we've done like no coalescing though, for example, like a lot of the times we've like implemented it, it the code like implied that there should only be like something like that. If you know what I mean, like the code implied that it should be like like for example an integer.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes that different? Where I should like no coalesce that, even though like under any circumstance like conceivable it should be an integer.
Your example would be something like this. If somebody has an age, right, integer like that, or if I say integer like that, right, I'm saying that the person did put in an age. I'm making an assumption that my user used my app and they put in an age. That is not preferred. That's not preferred because we know users, they might not enter something.
Okay.
So do not risk your code with relying on the user.
So if it's like external variable.
Exactly. External variable, getting data from the internet, whatever it is, don't assume that data will be available. Okay. But here we have to assume, right? We need a cell. We need our animal cell. It has to exist for our app to exist. Does that make sense? But if you have some app where you tell the user enter your birthday, enter your age, enter whatever, right? And you say you implicitly unwrap it, you're assuming that the user will put in all the data, right? So that's the difference. Uh-huh. All right, cool. So we are good here. We have our cell. Everybody's good with the code so far? Everybody wrote out the code? All right, so let's test out our app and see what's going on. So run the application. Run the application. And as we go to our third tab, look at that. It's like we, again, did not do anything. So amphibian is on the right, right? Because that's section 0. Everybody with me? Amphibian is on the right, it's section 0. I scroll, my bird is on the left because that's section 1. Everybody with me? Section starts at 0, same as arrays. My birds is on the left because section 1. As I scroll up here, I have my insect, right? Again, that's an even number, 0, 1, 2. This would be section 2 for insect, right? So our code holds and everything is good, right? Yes? When you show us the actual error, because right now you should be able to scroll up. If you scroll all the way up in the console, scroll up. Sorry, down. Right here, read what the error says. You have not updated your reuse identifier. So you're trying to dequeue something that doesn't exist. So make sure that your two cells, the first top cell is left image cell for the reuse identifier in Storyboard, in Attributes Inspector, and the second cell, make sure it says left image cell. Because if you're trying to dequeue it here, Andy, you're trying to dequeue it here, and it doesn't match in Storyboard, it will crash. So make sure that identifier matches. Yes, Julia?
I don't have errors, but my pictures not show.
That might be a constraint issue, because that's the only thing we added in Storyboard. Double check your constraints are correct. Luba, does yours show correctly?
Mine, no, it just shows the ones.
Did you update your code with right image cell and left image cell? Right? Cassandra, does yours show? Lilia?
Yeah, everything shows.
Okay. Let's team up with people where, can you double check Luba's computer and see what she may have missed as far as like the images? Anybody else? Ian, did yours work? Okay, great. Chelsea?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so this is what we have so far. So now we know how to manipulate multiple cells. So now we could have 3 cells, 4 cells, whatever the question asks, or whatever we want to design ourselves. We know making use of the reuse identifier, right? Making use of the cell for row and what gets returned. And now we really see where the queue comes in handy, right? Dequeue the left cell, dequeue the right cell, right? Because those cells are in Storyboard. Those are the cells I want, right? Okay, cool. So let's keep going on here. So now I want to, when I click on a cell, I want to segue over. So let's work on that part of it. When I click on a cell, I want to segue over to show more details of the animal. What's the key method here? What's the key method we need? Mr. Sering, what's the key method I need here? Now I want to click on dolphin and segue over to the detail of the dolphin. What's the key method we need to override? What's that? Prepare for segue, right? Did we all hear that? Prepare for segue. Prepare for segue is that method that gets called. The minute I click on the dolphin cell, prepare for segue gets called, right? So we have to override prepare for segue to set up the animal to pass it over to the detail view controller. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go to, which view controller do we need to work on? Well, both of them, right? What are we doing in the detail view controller? What's the key part of it? What do we need to do in the detail view controller? Actually, we don't have a detail view controller yet. But if we have a detail view controller, what do we need to do in the detail view controller? What does it need? It needs an object, right? It needs that animal. Everybody heard Yulia? So let's go ahead and create, we'll call it animal detail view controller. We'll create a new class called animal detail view controller. And if we create a new class, we have a new view as well. But in that new class, we'll set up the animal object. So let's go ahead and create a new class. So new file. What type of file are we creating? Is it Swift? Cocoa Touch. Why Cocoa Touch? Because it has UI kit and also it allows us to subclass a Cocoa Touch class, right? We subclass in UI view controller. This is the view controller we want to create. If you want to do a custom cell, you would subclass what class? If you want to do a custom table cell, what class are you subclassing? UI table view cell, right? Very good. So here we said we'll call it animal detail view controller. It subclasses from UI view controller. Right? A subclass inherits its parents' methods and properties, right? Great, so we'll click next and click create. Awesome. So here we have our detail view controller. Remove commented out code. Again, please do not submit commented out code. If you don't use the code, put it in the trash. Cool. All right, so here we have our view did load. What is the key element we need again? What do we need in our detail view controller? What's that, Cassandra? The data, right? In that case, what's the data? An animal, right? Our data, the data we pass into this detail view is an animal object. So we'll go ahead and create an animal variable here of type zooAnimal. Yes, that's our model. That's the only model we have, and it's a struct, yes. I refactored it yesterday. It was a class like when you guys had it. No reason to make it a class. So it's a struct. Animal, great. Let's keep going here. We'll create some helper method to update our UI. Update UI. We'll unwrap our animal object. And here, Matt, to emphasize on your question earlier, we're not implicitly using, we're not making zooAnimal an implicit variable because there's a potential that we forgot to set it. And it will crash, which we want it to crash, but it doesn't give us a valid error, like a fatal error, for example. It would just crash out the object saying it's nil, right? But here we're using optional unwrapping. That way we could unwrap it ourselves and put in our fatal error statement. Cool? All right, so guard let here, and we say zooAnimal equal to animal else fatal error here, and we'll say couldn't set animal object, and we'll tell ourselves check prepare for segue, right? That's the place the error could have gone wrong, right? Because we forgot to set it up. We forgot to pass it. If you forget to pass it, it's going to crash because the object is nil and you try to use it, right? Okay, So now we have a zoo animal. What elements do we need? Well, we need an image. IB outlet. We'll call it animal image view. So we need a nice big image here on our detail view. So animal image view, we'll create a next IB outlet and we'll say animal name. Well, animal name, we'll use animal name in the nav bar. What else does our animal have? Description, yes. Before that, we'll put the classification. So animal classification, it's a UI label. Then we'll put description, IB outlet, week, animal info, right? Info label, var, thank you. And animal info label is a UI label. And animal classification, let's just say label, image view. What else we have on an animal? The name, we'll put the name, we'll put the name in the nav bar. Everybody with me? Let's see what our animal has. Name, image, number, that's for the image, origin, classification, info. Okay, great. We covered everything. Cool. Right?
Are you putting origin or?
Let me double check here. Animal, we have, yeah, we're going to put origin. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Origin. Animal origin is a UI label. Cool. So a bunch of things to set up here. First off, we'll set up the navigation item title to be the zoo animal name. So the name we'll put in the nav bar. Everybody with me? The nav title. Then we have our image view. So animal image view dot image. Here we have our UI image named animal dot image number dot description. That gets us our asset from the asset catalog. Update this to say zoo animal. Okay. Next up, let's set up the classification. So animal classification label dot text equal to animal, zoo animal dot classification. Next up, we have animal info label dot text gets our zoo animal dot info. And lastly, we have origin. So animal origin dot text equal to zoo animal dot origin. And don't forget to call your update UI in ViewDidLoad. So the view, we click on our cell, the detail view comes on screen, ViewDidLoad gets called, our update UI gets called, and it sets up all our UI elements. Yes?
Sorry, just to go back, I know you, to go back into like the optional versus implicit unwrapping thing. You said like the way we have it set up here is because we set it up so that way, even if it wasn't that, it would be set to a field later. Is that correct?
Yes, so if we do not set it in prepare for segue, it will crash here. as opposed to crashing somewhere that just says it's nil, and we really don't know what happened.
But when it was implicitly when we were implicitly unwrapping, weren't we doing a similar thing? So
It actually also crashes in the fiddle error first, in our self-RL.
so I guess I'm asking, like, they have similar circumstances surrounding.
Similar circumstances, but you have to go one step further, like you have to unwrap it here, as opposed to what we did in self-RL. Self-RL, you'd have to unwrap the value first.
Yeah.
But implicit unwraps implicitly,
Okay.
right? With the question mark, you have to explicitly unwrap it.
So if we implicitly unwrapped it here, it wouldn't even get to the fatal error? Because
If we implicitly unwrap it here, it wouldn't get to the fatal error because we wouldn't have to unwrap the value.
okay.
Cool? All right. Did we finish type? Are we good? Still typing? Shania? Good? All right, so let's continue on. Let's first connect our outlets before we forget. So get to your storyboard. We don't even have a detail view yet. Let's get here. Let's drag in a view controller. So drag in a view controller right to your third view. So get to your object library. Search for view controller. View controller. For purposes of reusing our detail view, I'll put my detail view right here so we know that we are not going to create 3 different detail views. Did I put it in the right place? I put it too high? Come down, come down. No, it's good. Yeah, right here. Right? We should have one detail view controller for all 3 views. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? So don't even go there as far as like if you have a detail view, do not create 3 separate detail views. Everybody with me? Because this detail view is going to show the same animal. Right? Regardless if I'm coming from my first view controller, second view controller, or third view controller. Everybody with me? Same detail view controller. Yes, but in our case, we'll just work on the last one for now. But just keep in mind that if you want to do the second and the first, connect it to that detail view controller. Okay?
We're gonna have 3 prepared for segways.
Well, each view controller needs to prepare for segue to set up the animal, right? Because it clicks on the cell, it needs to set that object up. But that part you need to do, yes. But apart from that, you do not create 3 different detail view controllers. All right, so let's go ahead and set up the UI for what that looks like. I was going to create a scroll view here, but I really don't want to make us think that scroll views are part of Friday. So I'm not going to create a scroll view here. I'll just create some, I'll put a UI text view and some labels. Everybody with me? We'll talk about scroll views next week or later in Unit 3. Everybody with me? Right, scroll views, right? We scroll content. But for now, we'll keep it simple here. Cool, so what do we need? We need an image view. And I also want us to be able to reproduce anything on Saturday. I don't want us to be like, oh, but we didn't do a scroll view, so we'll come back to that next week. So first off, let me fix this. Before we do anything, constraints, let's fix this. When I click on my cell here, right? When I click on my cell, I want to segue to that view controller. So control drag from your first cell over to the detail view and click on show. Do we see show? Click on show. And also control drag from your second cell. Control drag from your second cell over to this detail controller. Also click show. Selection segue is show. All right, yes. Let's get our bar first before we do anything. Great, so let's go set up our image view. Our image view will be pinned to the top, pinned to the leading, and pinned to the trailing at 0. Let's go ahead and pull that up. So here we have our add new constraints. For our image view, we'll say 0 to the top, 0 to the leading, and 0 to the trailing. and we add 3 constraints. For the height of my image view, I'll control drag on it. I'll move it over to the super view, and I'll make it equal heights. Equal heights. And I'll go over to the size inspector. I'll go over to the size inspector for my image view, and I'll change my equal heights to say 30. Let's see what 40 looks like. Does 40 look okay? Uh, 40%, which might be a bit too high. Let's change that to 35%. So for the proportional height, edit it and change it to 35% of the height of the device. Multiplier 0.35 of the height. Yulia? 0.35 of the height. Yes?
So equal heights and equal, let's just let you do proportional to whatever it is.
Exactly, exactly.
That all comes.
Yes. Cool. Okay, so we have our image view. Great, great, great. Next up, what do we have? We have how many labels? How many labels we have?
3.
We have 3 labels, right? So let us drag in some labels here. So get a label. We'll have a label for the origin. We'll have a label for the origin. I'll option drag over, label for the classification. And we'll have a label for the info. Actually, not a label for the info. Delete the info. Delete the last label, sorry. Let's get a text view. So search for text view. Not text field, text view. Okay? So origin, classification, and this text view will be for the info. As I said, at some point, maybe what we do is refactor this into a scroll view, but for today, let's use a UI text view. The difference is user experience. Right? With the scroll view, we'll be able to scroll the content as the label grows. Everybody with me? So we'll have the label at 0 lines, and if the label is 20 lines, the scroll view would be able to scroll up to see all the contents of it. Everybody with me? But here we're using a basic UI text view for now. Okay? Let's set the constraints for our origin. So click on origin label, go to add new constraints. For the origin, what do we want? We want 8 to the top or to the bottom of the image view, 8 to the bottom of the image view. And let's do 20 to the lead-in. That's it. Only 2 constraints. Only 2 constraints for the origin. It knows its width, right? We're not going to set the width on this one. Only the top and lead-in. And we'll add 2 constraints. Great. Next up, let's do classification. Click on classification. Go to add new constraints. For the top, again, 8. For trailing, 20. Add 2 constraints. For the text view, add new constraints. We'll make it 20 everywhere. Okay, that's for the text view. 20 to the top, 20 to lead-in, 20 to trailing, 20 to bottom. 4 constraints. At this point, we have laid out our detail view. Maybe. What is that? I think I have 2 warnings here. Trailing is missing on this guy, and lead-in is missing on that guy here. Okay. Let's just give it a width and be done. So click on the origin and give it a width, which is 46. That should take care of that. Did it fix width? 1 second. Say that again. The animal info, this info here is for the animal info. The text view is for the animal info. So let's see what's happening here with our label. Leading constraint is missing, which may cause overlapping with other views. So what it's saying is if it grows, then we need to stop it somewhere. Okay, that's fair. Let's do that. So for the origin, let's set a constraint on it for where it stops. We'll put it at 8. So it doesn't go beyond 8. So it's not clipping. That's what it says there for the warning. 1. It doesn't want to overlap the next view. It wants to know at what point it stops. Because we did not give it, I'm sorry? The next view, the closest neighbor.
Okay.
And now we want to give our classification a constraint as well. Let's give it 8 here. And we want one more constraint. Let's update our, oh, let's just update where it aligns. So click on your classification label and go to Attribute Inspector and right align. Right align the text for classification.
So we added to the origin
Trailing to the origin to the classification and remove the width. I think we have a fixed width. We gotta remove the width. 8 points.
Mine says set horizontal height.
The height, make sure that your origin is pinned to the bottom of the image view at 8 points. And we have one more constraint here I think we have to get rid of. The width. Let's remove the width. Width. 1 second. Fixed width constraints. You want to redo it? Is that what you said? Okay. Redo it. So let's redo it. So here we have only the 3 at the bottom. So command click the text view and the 2 labels, and let's redo it. So to redo it, you click on Reset Constraints and Clear Constraints. Okay? All right. So origin, we start with origin. We say origin is top of the bottom of the image view is 8. The leading of the super view is 20, right? We started off with 2. We added 2 constraints. And we went out to the classification. Classification. We said classification, add constraints for it. We said 8 to the bottom of the image view, 20 to the trailing of the image view. And for our text view, we said 20 all around. Right? And we left with 2 warnings here. One says, we all did that? Did we all do that? Yes, sir.
Is there a way we could limit the width of the origin and the classification to like half the width of the screen?
You can. You could center it. Why? We could do that.
Like for both of them, so that like the origin, the maximum width would be up to the half of the width of the screen.
We could do that. So what we could do here, so Ben Benito's question is, can we say the origin's trailing is center Y, right?
Yeah.
We could do that, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let me zoom up. So go ahead, control drag from the origin over to your super view, right? And center horizontally, right? center horizontally, and here, let's go ahead and add one constraint for the lead-in on the classification. We should be able to now just add 0. The origin to the view, to this view of the super view. Control drag from the origin over to the view and center horizontally, sorry, to the super view. Center, a mini, control drag from origin over to the super view and select center horizontally. Do you see the option? Okay. And for classification, click on classification, go to add new constraints. And for classification, let's set it to 8. And add one constraint. All right, at this point, we shouldn't have any more warnings. Let's review what constraints we have. For the origin, what do we have? We have, for your origin, right, Luba? We aligned it. The trailing of it is 20, sorry. Let's see. Am I clicking on the wrong one?
Are they overlapping?
Let's see. We centered the origin with the center of the super view. And we said classification. Classification is 8 points from the origin's point, the origin's leading edge, or trailing edge, sorry. Okay?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have any more errors, though. Right? There's no conflict. There's no conflict right now. There's no conflict. Our origin is not going to grow from where it is. Okay? All right. Let's continue on. So now let's go ahead and connect our outlets to our detail view controller. So go to your assistant editor. Go to your assistant editor. Oh, we don't have a class yet. Click on your view controller. Click on your detail view controller. Click on your detail view controller. Go over to your identity inspector. Click on your view controller, detail view controller. Go to the identity inspector. And in our class, we put in animal detail view controller. Put in animal detail view controller and press enter. Make sure that you do have the blue check mark. Right? Okay. Now let's go ahead. Right now, our view doesn't show up. The easiest way to make it show up is to option click on the file name. So option click on animal detail view controller. The last thing we did was change the class name from view controller to detail view controller. The identity inspector? For the detail, yes. Okay, so now we have our detail scene next to our animal detail view controller class. And we could go ahead and connect them up. So our image view, we drag over to our image view. Our animal classification label, we drag over to our animal classification label. Our animal info, that is not a label. We need to update that. Everybody, please. Animal info label is no longer a UI label. Animal info label is no longer a UI label. Everybody, please. So here, this is going to be a UI text view. And just change this to, say, text view. Everybody, please make that update. What happened? 1 second, we could fix that. Let's connect them first and see what the UI is. Okay, so animal info label, let's go ahead and drag it over to the text view. I still said info label. Animal info text view, drag it over to your text view. And the animal origin, drag it over to your animal origin. Right? We'll fix the overlapping as the UI comes up. Okay, don't worry about that now. We'll fix it later. Okay, we've connected everything up. Let's go ahead and set up our prepare for segue. Animal, the name to a text view. Did I not change it yet? Oh, down here? Oh, okay, that's fine. This guy? Let's go to our update UI. Go to your update UI and please make sure that your animal info text view has been updated. I did not refactor the cardinal sin. Okay, so animal info text view. Everybody, Luba, make sure your animal text view has been updated in the update UI. How we doing? Good? Are we good? Okay, let's go to our, who's pushing that view? Animal sections. Go to animal sections view controller. Animal sections view controller. And let's work on prepare for segue. Animal, what's that? You said something.
I just finished that.
Oh, you finished?
Just did that.
Oh, wow. Does everything work?
Yes.
Rockstar. Give it up for Tanya. Very good. That's what we like. Initiative. Taking it to the next level. All right. So let's do our prepare for segue. So prepare for segue. And you should see the reaction on her face. Like she got better than the lottery, you know. That's the achievement we're looking for. When you get to that moment, you're like, yes, I did it. Without Cassandra's help. All right, let's do prepare for segue here. So prepare for segue, let's go ahead and do guard, what do we need? The detail view, right? So detail view controller. We're using the segue parameter name, and we get into the destination. Remember, when you in prepare for segue, you are trying to get to the destination, not description, destination, right? Segue.destination is where you're going to. You get back a UI view controller. That's why we use as question mark, because you get a UI view controller. So you want to cast it to the type you're going to. The type we're going to is an animal detail view controller. So we cast it to that type that we're going to. And we use else here. And we put a fatal error in there saying something went wrong. But we need more. What else do we need? What else do we need? Oscar, what else do we need? We need one more piece of information. Where we're going to is not enough.
Oh, you need the instance? Or
The instance we have, that's the instance here. This is where we're going to. That's a big part of Friday.
I can't remember the name of it. But it has some.
Jahid?
Is it the section and the row?
Right, so we need a section on the row, but to get that we need, Chelsea, the index path. We need the index path that the user selected, right? On my app here, if the user selected Panda, I want that particular index path. Like, what index path is it in my table view? With that index path, I'll get the section and I'll get the row. So we need to get to the index path. So we'll use a comma here, and we'll say let index path, which is also an optional. Why is it an optional? Because the table view property returns an optional index, right? It could be nil. So here we have table view. The table view knows what index was selected. On the table view, we have a property called index path for selected row. Index path for selected row here. Great, now we have the index path. Awesome. We could continue on. So again, all that is review here. So we need the destination. We need the segue.destination view controller. We are navigate into, and we need the index path that was selected. Right? So those are the two pieces of information we need, and we get it from this God statement. Right? So the God statement gets us the place we're going and what was selected, what row was selected. Next up, we need to get the object. So get currently selected object. In our case, it's a zoo animal. And here we'll say animal equal to what? Animal equal to what? David. I'm looking for the index path, but what do I need? What's the code I'm writing? What's the code I'm writing before section row? Just remember the animal classification. Just remember the data that you have. And here, index path dot section, as you said, and index path dot row. Great. So we have the object. Now we need to set it on the detail view. So set the detail view controller's animal object. So to do that, we have the detail view controller. That's part of getting the detail view controller. Without getting a reference to the detail view controller, you cannot set the object. Everybody with me? I need to get a reference to it. So now I have a reference to it. I could say detail view controller, I want your animal object, and I want to set it to the animal object that the user selected. Right? So those are the essential parts of Friday. It's like really knowing what's happening here and knowing how to replicate it, right? For our fatal error, what are we saying here? Index path failed to get index path and detail view controller. So if anything goes wrong, we'll crash right at line 39. That gives us enough information to debug what's happening, right? Okay, cool. Can we continue?
You might go into like the bottom part.
The bottom part of this view controller?
Yeah, that even
That was yesterday, right? Oh, that was today, sorry. The cell for row?
Yeah, I'm missing. I think you need some error for when I try to do the second cell, like the left.
The second cell, the left cell, this guy in the L statement?
Yeah, I was getting an error.
Make sure that your second cell has a reuse identifier.
I gave it a different one, yeah.
Make sure you go back to it and you click enter in interface builder. Because if you have all that code that we have here, the next part is your interface builder. The identifier might be off.
Oh yeah, I was just missing the cell equals animals.
Oh, okay, you're not actually set it. Got it. Cool. Good. I'll go back up to help us here. How's everybody doing with prepare for segue? Christian? We good? Ben Benito? Good? All right, let's run the app and see where we are. What's that? We haven't connected it?
No, we didn't put set the information.
Oh, we didn't set the information?
We did 4, but that was only because we added type.
Can we segue? Okay, we could segue, but classification. South America, origin. Okay, we need to set origin. That's your question?
No, we fixed up.
Let's go back. Let's see what's happening. Let's have bird, South America. Origin is not set, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, on ours it's classification, but one of ours.
Okay, let's go back and see what's happening. So,
You have your animal info set to be,
Animal info is animal info, right? Toucan, we have the info, correct, right? We have the origin, correct?
We have the origin as we have the classification as the origin.
Got it. So let's see what's happening. Classification is classification. Is it just we connected it wrong? Let's see what's happening. Let's see. Let us see. We have UI, we have code. Let's see where we disconnected stuff. My storyboard. Okay, let's verify what connections we have for the detail view. Okay, so our image is correct, right? We have our image. Let's see what's happening here. Ooh, look at this guy. This guy is a bit gritty. Origin, we need to connect origin and classification. Let's just disconnect classification. Classification was never connected. All right, so origin goes to origin. Right? Classification goes to classification. Right? Let's run our app again. Click on my sections, go to Flamingo. We have South America. It is a bird. Do we have a longer description? Who's the longest guy? This guy. Which one? Right, so we could scroll. Everybody? So we could scroll the content, right, using the text view. At some point in Unit 3, I'll show us what a UI scroll view looks like. The UI scroll view, basically, I would be able to scroll the entire view. Everybody with me? I would be able to scroll the entire view, right? Because this here is not the best user experience. With the UI scroll view, the UI text view here doesn't provide the best user experience. Everybody with me? So the entire view, including the image, would scroll. So everything would be in a scroll view. And as my label gets taller, my scroll view content would get taller. So that's the difference. But for now, we have a UI text view. Okay? Yes, sir?
We'll cross that bridge.
What's the bridge?
Just like you said, the user experience is not the same. I just wanted to watch the difference.
Well, do you normally use an app that just has a text view like that, or your entire content scrolls? For example, Instagram or whatever, Twitter, whatever. You're reading a message and it's a longer message than this device's screen. Does it give you a text view like we have now?
No.
Exactly. So that's what I'm talking about. Which one is a better user experience?
So, okay.
What's that, Chelsea?
No, I said it's different, it's not necessarily better depending.
I don't know if I would ship an app like that.
It depends on what you're trying to do with it though. Because like it would be cool to have something.
It's not a big deal.
In terms of what?
Terms and agreements, like have a text view, but other than that, I can't think of.
Yeah. All right.
When I was going to put a text view into the lab of this, but when I hovered over it, said that one of the features of the text view is that when it's touched, the keyboard moves. Is that what
No. Guys, let's come back. So the text view, Matt was saying when you touch the text view, the keyboard comes up. There's a property on the text view called editable. If you set that property to false, the keyboard won't come up. It won't allow the user to edit.
Okay.
Right? So on our text view here, let me go to our text view. Everybody go to your text view here, and let's go to the attributes inspector for the text view. Click on your text view, right, and go to the attributes inspector. Do we see behavior editable?
Yes.
And do we see selectable? So, right now, our text view, let me bring up my app here. Right now, my text view, I could come in here and delete everything. Right? Don't ship that. The user is going to delete, right? Or be able to delete the text. So, to avoid that from happening, let's go back to our text view. Click on your text view. Go back to behavior. Do we see behavior? Remove editable, so the user is not able to bring up the keyboard to edit the text. Everybody with me? And behavior selectable, they cannot even copy my text. Right? Everybody with me? So we have that available to us. If you want the user to be able to copy your text, keep selectable on. If you want them to not be able to copy text, then that's not on, right? Same as editable. If you want them to be able to edit the text view, keep editable true or on, vice versa. Yes, sir?
Did they get the textures below create hyperlinks?
There's also hyperlinks. There's a lot of things you could do with text view. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
It could recognize a hyperlink. It could recognize a phone number.
Like a hotline.
Yes. All those data detectors there, I could say which one I want. Right now, everything is false.
Yes.
But as I toggle them, I could say, hey, detect an address. So when I click on the address, maps open.
Okay, yeah, because some of that text will give that underline.
Yes. So text view is very powerful, right? Everybody with me? Yes, sir.
For scroll view, would the constraints for the elements in that page be the same?
Scroll view, first you have to start with the scroll view and give it a content view, meaning give it a view that on that view you put your elements. So we'd have two other things to do with our detail view. So first, like the way we laid out our detail view, we'd have to remove everything. First put a scroll view, then put a UI view, and then put our elements on top of that UI view, right? That creates the content area. That's why I said I'll hold off on it a little bit until we get some more familiarity with like what we're working on right now. Cool? But I do have a video if you want to see it. I did post some video of UI scroll view and dynamic type, so you could take a look at that. Okay, so let's see how we're doing here. We have our app. Oh, let's run it again, actually, to see if what we just changed, did it work? Like the keyboard right now should not come up, right? So if I click on my third tab, I click on Flamingo, I cannot edit. Everybody with me? Right now, I cannot edit the text view, okay? Any other questions? A lot of whispers. Question, Julia? Luba, question?
Yeah, I missed the text.
The text view? What part did you miss?
Julia.
Yulia got you. Awesome job, Yulia. Any other questions? Because we'll stop lecture here. So, we should be at least 80% comfortable with everything we've done so far, correct? Any questions?
How we change the colors of the cells?
How do we change the colors of the cells?
Just in the attribute inspector?
If I want to change the colors of the cells, how do I do that?
In attribute inspector?
Well, first of all, Friday you could Google, right? If I Google how to change color of cell, actually, let's do it. Let's see what comes up.
Yeah.
No, but Friday you cannot, right? Like if you want to ask Eric a question, you cannot ask Eric a question, but you could Google, right? So if I Google change
I'll ask him any.
change background color of cell, go ahead, Google it, everybody. Change background color of cell and put Swift on the end of it. Change background color of cell, Swift. Right? What comes up? Anybody has any clues as to what the answer is? What came up, Mr. Kelby? How do we change the background color of a cell? That was Luba's question.
I think it's just going to be whatever your cell is called.
Uh-huh.
Dot background.
Right? Why did you come up with that conclusion?
Because that's how we did it for text and stuff.
Right, so basically Kelby is using the knowledge of inheritance. He says if a UI view has a background color, right, a cell is also a UI view. Do we agree? So I could say cell.background color. Everybody with me? It's a view. I could change the background color of it. Okay? So I could say cell.background color equal to whatever color I want.
How can you make them all different colors?
That's your question to answer. Okay? The same way we did the mod operator, you could do a mod operator and go between odd and even. Yes, not in ViewDot. Where did we do the sections? Where did we change the sections?
The background color also depended.
But what is that method? Where did we do it? Here, background color. So cell background color equal to whatever color you want. This is the code here. But where did we go, Luba? Where did we go? Where did we change the sections from left to right? Exactly. So that's where you would change your cell logic. Okay? Right? Okay. We'll stop lecture here. Thank you.